Hi everyone, this is Mr. Lonnie, and I wanted to thank you for attending the Counseling Department's college application presentation today. October in Michigan is College Month, where we devote our activities to applying to college, college financial aid, any kind of college questions that high school students have, we try to assist with during this month. Throughout this week, we've been hosting presentations on specifically on college applications. And next week, we'll be hosting a series of presentations on the topic of financial aid. So I will touch a little bit on financial aid today, but really next week is going to be the big one on financial aid. So again, thank you for coming. We're going to go through a little presentation today on college applications, and then there will be a chance afterward for you to ask questions. You can type questions into the chat or into the Q&A, and one of the other counselors will read those to me. If it pertains to what I'm talking about at the moment, they might interrupt me. Otherwise, they'll save them to the end, and we can do a little Q&A after the presentation. Joining us today are the other members of the counseling team. And of course, if you don't recognize my name is Mr. Lonnie, and that's whose voice you are hearing. All right, so let's get started. So we really start off by asking you to think about your post-secondary plans. Your post-secondary plans is a fancy way of saying what you are going to do after high school. So some of you may be planning to go to a university. Some of you may be going to a community college, perhaps a trade school. Some of you will be going into the military, and others might be going straight to work. You already have a job lined up. So we know that every single senior is going to have a completely different plan for after high school. And the thing I wanted to impress upon you is throughout this presentation, we're going to be using the word college a lot. But really, college today means a very different thing than it did when I was in high school. When I was in high school and someone said college, they usually meant like a university. But today, when we say college, we are really referring to any kind of education or learning that you are going to do after high school. So after you graduate high school, whether it's community college, trade school, a university, an apprenticeship, that's all learning, and we refer to all of that as college. So when we say today college application, we don't mean that everyone in the 12th grade class is going to go to Wayne State University. We mean that some of you may go to university, but also we're talking about applying for apprenticeships, applying to trade schools, and so forth. So I really want to make sure you understand when I say college, I mean any kind of learning that takes place after high school. So I want you to start thinking about your plans. Now, the reason we do this is because this college application process, and again, I mean applying to any kind of learning after high school, this process can be kind of confusing, especially if maybe you don't have someone in your household to help you out, especially right now because we're all stuck at home. So because this college application process can be confusing, we are putting on this presentation because we are here to help you. Normally when we're in school, you can come on down to the counseling office and get our help. But right now while we're at home, we really encourage you to reach out to us. Obviously since you're here, you are reaching out to us, but feel free to contact us outside of this presentation for additional help. Our hope that is by the end of this week and by the end of our presentations next week, all seniors at Warren Mott will be able and knowing how to submit a college application, that all seniors will know how to access your high school transcript online, and that all Warren Mott seniors will be able to apply for financial aid. And like I said at the beginning, the financial aid piece, we're going to talk more in depth next week in our financial aid presentations. Okay, so I just want to get this out of the way before we go any further. There are, when I talk to students, there are a lot of concerns out there about the costs of college. And we've heard over the years that college can be expensive, and that there are some people out there who made some poor decisions with college and with loans and with their finances, and now they owe a lot of money. And I talk to students all the time that they say to me, Mr. Lonnie, I don't want to end up in that situation. And we're here to tell you we don't want you to end up in that situation either. We don't want you to owe tens of thousands of dollars that you can't repay someday. We don't want that for you. But we want to be honest about what are we talking here when we talk about the cost of college. So we've put together this sheet here, or this graphic, and it has some average costs of college. We've researched how much tuition is and how many credits that a typical full-time college student will take. And as you see in this top row here, I'm going to use my mouse to kind of circle this. In this top row, this is what we're talking when we say how much college costs. This is how much a full-time load of classes will cost you. And you'll see there's a range here. The lowest range, we're talking maybe close to $4,000. And the upper end of that range might be close to $15,000, $16,000. That's a big range. So that is the first part we want to talk about, is this is how much we're talking. And this is per year, by the way. So an entire year of college would cost you this. Now, even some of these lower ones, for example, Eastern Michigan with $11,000, that still is a lot of money, I agree. But we're going to break it down and explain how you may not end up paying this much out of pocket. So the next line, we want to talk about an additional cost, which is called room and board. This is if you plan to live at your college. So there's, obviously you pay for like a dorm room, but the boarding part, that's where you pay for like the facilities. You're also paying usually for like food or a meal plan so you can eat at college. And you'll see that room and board is just about as expensive as tuition. So when you do think about tuition, how much your classes cost, if you're planning on living at that college, the cost of college is going to double almost. So that is a big expense. But we want you to think, you'll notice here, we have some zeros. We are very, very fortunate to live in the area of Michigan that we do. We have amazing colleges and universities in driving distance of us, just from our homes. So because of that, we're able to attend Macomb Community College, Oakland University, Wayne State University, maybe even Eastern Michigan University, without having to stay on campus. We can actually drive there right from our homes. And that saves a lot of money for us. Not everyone in this in the state of Michigan or in this country are able to drive to a university. And I know we grow up around Macomb and Oakland and Wayne, and we think they're just kind of like neighborhood schools that aren't that great. But Macomb, Oakland, and Wayne are world-class colleges. People come from all around this country, and believe it or not, people come from around the world to attend some of the colleges we have in our area. So just because you grew up knowing Macomb was down the street or Oakland's not too far away and Wayne is in Detroit, that just because you're familiar with them, they are world-class colleges, and we are so lucky that we can drive to them and we don't have to pay for room and board. So if money is a concern of yours and not and being able to afford college is a large concern of yours, then you want to think about which colleges can I drive to instead of staying on campus, because that might help me save some money. In case you're wondering, where do most Warren Mott students go? You may not be surprised. Most of our students who attend a community college will go to Macomb, and most of our students who will attend a university go to either Wayne or Oakland. My guess is because they're close to us and because you can save some money by driving there. That being said, we do have many students that go off to Eastern, Western, Central, U of M, and MSU, and many other colleges, but those are some of the more popular ones. So we're talking about how much it costs, but how can we get that cost down? So what is the true picture here? And we've given some examples down here, but before I go to those, I want you to think to yourself, do you have a job right now And do you think you'd be working next year while you're in college? I also want you to think about, does my family have a financial need? I want you to think about, do you usually get free or reduced lunch when you're a student at Warren Mott? So if you get free and reduced lunch at Warren Mott, usually, or your family has a specific financial need, there's a good chance you will qualify for some government assistance. Oops, go back. Some government assistance. One of government assistance for college is called grants. Grants are free money, kind of like scholarships, which I know a lot of you know what a scholarship is. A grant is like a scholarship the government gives you. And I happen to know that over 60% of Warren Mott students do qualify for grants. Yeah, over 60% really qualify for grants. And one common grant from the United States government is called the Pell Grant. That grant is over $6,000, and I've heard it's even gone up a little bit this year. So if you are a student who has you have a financial need, or as another kind of hint, you may get free and reduced lunch from Warren Mott, the government may give you over $6,000 to attend school. Free $6,000. You don't have to pay this back. It's like a scholarship. And if you said to yourself, yes, I am working right now, or I'm planning on working next year, a part-time job could add about another $2,000, $3,000 of money that you have for college next year, just by working a part-time job. For example, I worked a part-time job all 5 years of my undergraduate college experience. So I would fall into that category. So just if you know that your family has a financial need, you already have $6,000 coming to you. And if you're planning on working full-time or part-time next year, you already have about $2,000 coming to you. So what does that do to your college expenses? If you're planning on attending Macomb and you get free and reduced lunch, or you're working part-time, you can expect your cost of college to be completely covered in 1 year. So Macomb, for many of you, will be free, legitimately free to go to Macomb. If you're planning on going to Oakland or Wayne, we're looking at maybe $4,000 to $5,000 in 1 year for college. And that is doable. $4,000 to $5,000 a year for college is very doable. That is something perhaps your family will be able to help you with. And even if you had to pay that back later in life, $4,000 to $5,000 a year is not terrible once you start working. What are we talking here? Let's use Wayne as an example. Wayne, that's a daily cost of $15 a day. That can get you, that might be how much Wayne will cost you. Over a 4-year degree, that could cost you $20,000, which is very doable. And Oakland might cost you about $18,000. So when we're talking colleges, these are the actual facts and figures. Now, you'll notice there's blank boxes here. I didn't even get into you getting scholarships. So if you use your next 10 months wisely, you may be able to rack up a couple more $1,000 in scholarships for next year. And we will talk about a little bit today, and especially going into next week, how you can get scholarships. Each scholarship out there might be between $500 and $1,000. So imagine if you're planning on going to Oakland University and you could win maybe 4 scholarships this year. If you applied to 4 scholarships and you got them, that might completely cover your Oakland University expenses. You may go to Oakland University for free if you can win maybe 4 scholarships this year, and you work part-time and you qualify for the Pell Grant. So I want to make sure that you have some actual data on this is what college costs. This slide will be available on our website after the presentation. Okay, so moving on. How do we apply to colleges? And there are several steps we want to think about when applying to colleges. Number one, no matter what you're going to apply for in this world, you're going to have to fill out an application. I know many of you have jobs, so you're familiar with filling out like a job application. A college application is not too much different. It's maybe a little longer. It's going to ask you about school more, but it's like a really long job application. And we'll talk about where you'll find that in just a minute. Number two, you're going to have to send your high school record of how you did in high school, which is called your transcript. Your transcript, we send it out on a website called parchment.com. It's electronic, it sends it immediately, and it's free while you're in high school. We've been using parchment.com in the state of Michigan for almost 10 years. Nearly every high school in Michigan uses parchment.com. I'll be talking about how you access your transcript on Parchment a little bit later. If you're not sure what your transcript is, we've handed you out a transcript every year around scheduling time. So when you were a 9th grader and a 10th grader and 11th grader, we went to your English class to talk about scheduling, and we gave you a list of all your classes. That was your transcript. And that is what colleges are going to ask for. So we'll show you how to access it from home on Parchment. In many years, many universities out there wanted to see your test scores, like your SAT score. I'll talk a little bit about this later, that many colleges are not requiring that this year. But some of you will still be sending test scores because you've taken the test and this is important to you. Number four, the fourth step is we apply for financial aid. And by financial aid, I mean scholarships. We'll apply for that. We'll also apply for that free government money by using an application called the FAFSA. Maybe you've heard of that before. We'll talk a little bit about that today, and then we'll talk more about that step next week. And of course, number five, I said scholarships, and we'll talk more about that next week as well. So today we're going to focus on steps 1, 2, and 3. To kind of give you an idea on what colleges are looking for as you're kind of coming up with your decision, we've researched some top colleges that our students go to, in public colleges that our students go to in the state of Michigan, and we researched what the average high school GPA is of incoming students. So of the freshmen that are attending these colleges in Michigan, these are their average high school GPAs. Now that doesn't mean these are minimums. So for example, the first one up here says Central. This does not mean that if you have a 3.3, you can't get into Central. Many people with 3.3s, 3.2s, even lower, maybe even a 3.0 or a 2.9, many people with lower GPAs will get into Central. But these are averages. So these are, when you take all the freshman GPAs, high school GPAs, and average them together, this is what you're looking at. But I want to also give you an idea on kind of where this college sits as far as what they're looking for. So for example, it doesn't matter what your GPA is, you can get into Macomb Community College. So we often call Macomb Community College our safe school for our students, meaning that it doesn't matter what your GPA is in the least, Macomb has a seat for you. But if you have your heart set on something maybe like the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, you'll notice that the average high school GPA is a 3.88. So that means you're competing for seats to get into that college. You're competing with other students who have very high GPAs. Now, yes, I have seen many students get in with lower than a 3.88 to U of M, but it's difficult because you're competing with a lot of other people that have higher GPAs. So I certainly don't mean for this slide to confuse you and give you an idea that these are minimums and you can't get into these if you don't have these GPAs, but I want you to get an idea on what the applicants applying for these universities and colleges, what kind of GPAs they have.
Mr. Lonnie, we have a question.
Great.
What if you have taken the SAT and got a low score? Will they be able to see it?
Oh, okay. So if you took the SAT and you got a low score, will the college be able to see it? Is that what you mean? Probably.
I think so.
Okay. Well, so it all depends on if you sent them that low score. So they don't have access to just all the SAT scores ever. You have to specifically send it. And there's two ways that you would send your SAT, well, generally two ways you would send your SAT score to a college. One is when you filled out your bubble sheet, like before on the test day, when you're filling out your bubble sheet, if you selected certain colleges that would automatically get your scores then they will receive those scores. So on your bubble sheet, if you selected Macomb, Oakland, and Wayne, that means Macomb, Oakland, and Wayne will have access to those test scores. The other way that they get test scores, your SAT scores, is if you went on to the College Board website and you found the record of your old SAT score, and then you paid to have those sent from the College Board website to the college. That's the other way they'd get it. Now, I will add in that many colleges, and I'll get into this a little later, have determined that they will be test optional for the class of 2021, for your class. And what that means is they will not require SAT or ACT test scores for admissions into their college going into next year. Part of that policy is that they won't hold those scores against you. So if you're worried that a low score has been sent off to Wayne State University, I'm here to tell you that Wayne State University is a test optional school for next year. So their policy is even if it was low, they're not going to hold that against you. However, not every school is test optional, and I'll get into that a little later.
Another question. Do some colleges reject students that don't meet the average GPA?
Well, like again, these averages are not the same as a minimum. So not necessarily. So like I'm going to use Oakland here. Oakland, the average is a 3.5. This average does not mean that someone with a 3.3 can't get in. These are not minimums. These are just trying to give you an idea what most freshmen at these colleges, what they had in high school. So let's say you have a 3.0. I don't necessarily think Oakland will reject you because of that. If you have a 1.0, maybe they will. But they look at a lot of things. So they're going to look at your application. They're going to look at your and they'll be looking at your transcript to see how you did in your classes. But on that GPA alone, if it's below this average, I would not say that's the only. Just because it's below does not necessarily mean you're going to be rejected. Maybe if it's way below, or maybe because when they looked at your transcript, they saw some things that they weren't ready to take a chance and let you in. But again, these averages are not the same thing as having a minimum.
Is there a way to cancel sending your SAT scores to colleges?
Oh, well, so I'm assuming you're kind of in a situation where you just took the SAT, and on the bubble sheet, you chose some colleges, and now you're regretting it, and you don't want them to see your scores. If you're in that situation, then I would suggest probably going onto your College Board account and maybe contacting College Board directly to see if there's anything they can do. But I'm not sure. So you're going to probably want to contact College Board to see if you can stop that. Now, let's say you have a test coming up. Let's say you're going to take the test in December. What should you do? Should you choose to have your test scores automatically sent, or should you send them later? Well, the only thing I'm going to say is if you send them automatically because you bubbled them in on your bubble sheet, then it's going to be free to send them out. If you wait till later and you say, oh, I am proud of this score, I want this to send out, I want to send this out, you're going to do it on collegeboard.org on your College Board account, and it may cost, it may have a fee per each school that you send your scores to. So if you put it on your bubble sheet, it'll be free to send. But if you wait till later, so like you want to wait to see what you got first, it may cost you later. Now that being said, if you're worried about that fee to send your SAT score, your counselor may be able to get that fee waived for you. So do you remember I talked earlier about if you have like a financial need or if you get free and reduced lunch from school? Well, if that describes you, we may be able to help you with that SAT score fee. We may be able to waive that for you. So if you're really nervous and you don't want to send your test score because you don't know what you're going to get, then don't. Don't, on the bubble sheet, on the test day, don't put colleges and universities on there. Wait till you get your score back a month later and then you can decide. If and like I said, if you're having a hard time affording sending those test scores later, talk to your counselor. We may be able to waive that for you. So I hope that answers that question.
Another question, if I'm taking SAT in December, is it bad to apply to Wayne in December after I get my score? Although I know Wayne State is test optional, I still want to submit a score for a merit scholarship.
Great question. My suggestion to you is to apply now, even though you don't have an SAT score. Apply now, and later on in December or January, when that SAT score comes in, then then you can send it to that college, and they will connect it to your application, and they will consider you for a merit scholarship at that time. The risk that you run if you wait until applying till you get that score, which might not be until January or February maybe, is that that's the seats that they're giving, they're offering other students at these universities are filling up. So my suggestion is apply now, and then later when you get that score, send it in when you get it, and they'll connect it to your application. Okay, those are really good questions, so keep them coming in. All right, moving on. In step one, you got to find that college application, and you got to start filling it out. So where do we go? Back when I started in the counseling office, like over 10 years ago, there used to be a filing cabinet that had all these paper applications, and you and your counselor would go to the filing cabinet, find the paper application, fill it out, and we'd send it in. That doesn't exist anymore. That filing cabinet has long been removed. It's long gone. Now all college applications are electronic, and they're found on the college's website. So you'll have to find the Macomb Community College website, the Wayne State website, the Oakland website, whatever college you want to apply to, you go to their website. And then you have to kind of scan their first page for something that says apply, or something that talks about admissions or undergraduate admissions. Like Macomb, you'll see right at the top, I don't know if you can tell, it's kind of a small little screenshot here. The word apply is right at the top. In the Wayne State website, the word admissions is kind of right at the top. So you're going to look for the word apply or admissions. Once you click on that, it may ask you if you're going to be like a new student, or if you're going to be an undergraduate, and that does describe you. You're going to be a new student or an undergraduate student. And then you start filling out the application. Before you fill out that application, most colleges are going to ask you to create an account. This is like an application account. They ask you to do this so you can keep going back into your application, and so you can check on its status. And it's kind of similar to any time you've ever created an online account. If you created a email account or a Snapchat account or an Instagram account, this isn't too much different. It's going to ask you for your name. It's going to ask you for your email address to confirm some things, and that's how you create your account. You'll end up with like a username and password. The one thing I will highly recommend, as you're creating these accounts, please, please, please write down your username and password that you set for yourself. Because I'm telling you, 5 applications, 10 applications later, you're going to start forgetting what your passwords were for all these different accounts. And it just creates a bigger headache for yourself. If you don't like having little pieces of paper around with all these usernames and passwords, my other suggestion is to text it to yourself. You could go in your phone and you can text those usernames and passwords to yourself so you can go back later, or you can email them to yourself and keep them secure in your email. And then you can search your email for, Wayne State application password, that kind of thing. So I encourage you to do not trust your memory when it comes to all these usernames and passwords. Write them down somewhere, put them in your phone, email them to yourself, text them to yourself so you can go back later. Once you create that username and password, you will go into the application. You will fill out some personal information about you, about what you did in high school, about maybe some things that you were involved in, maybe about your counselor or your school's address, that kind of thing. And then you will submit that application. My experience with the Macomb application, it usually takes about 15 minutes. It's pretty quick. With Wayne State and Oakland, it could take maybe 20 minutes. They're really not too bad. And you can definitely finish them in one sitting. If you run into a problem when filling out that application, if your parents are around, you can ask them, or you can ask your counselor. You can email us. You can show up to one of our open office hours, and we'd be happy to help you complete that application. Now, when you get to the end of your application and you go to submit it, you will find that some colleges charge you a fee just for applying, but there's not too many. So this is kind of a chart to help you out here. There are many colleges in Michigan that are free all the time. You can fill out an application any day of the year, and it is completely free. You'll be happy to know Macomb is one of them, and Oakland is one of them. You can apply to Macomb and Oakland any day of the year, and it's a free application. And those are, like I said earlier, those are two of the more popular ones for Warren Mott students. We're also excited that during this month, there are additional colleges that jumped on board this free application wagon, and they're going to be free this month. So if you are planning on applying to Wayne or Michigan State or Western or Central, they're free if you get that application in the next week or so. 3 colleges have given us a special code that you'll use in your application. Eastern, Michigan State, and Wayne State gave us a special code right here that if you enter this in at the end of your application, it will waive that application fee. There are 3 colleges that did not give us any kind of waiver for this month: Northern, Saginaw, and U of M in Ann Arbor. If you're planning on applying to those and you don't want to pay that fee, contact your counselor. There may be some way that we can waive that fee for you. Remember, I talked about if your family has a financial need or if you qualify for free and reduced lunch. It also comes into play when we're talking about these application fees. If that applies to you, your counselor may be able to help you waive that application fee any day of the year. So if you get free and reduced lunch and you want to apply to U of M, talk to us. We might be able to waive that. If you're applying to Central Michigan University in November and they're asking you to pay a fee, talk to your counselor. We might be able to get that waived for you. And this slide will be available on our website. Any questions?
We have a question.
Yep.
If I apply to Wayne tomorrow, would it be considered an early decision?
Oh, so that is a good question. There's something called early decision or early action that some universities offer. They give this early deadline. For most colleges, it's somewhere around November 1st. So it's usually around the end of October, early November. And if you apply at that time, sometimes you get into that college a little easier because the pool of applicants is much smaller in that early decision window. Now, the thing, unfortunately, I'm going to have to recommend to you, though, is every college's, or if they offer early decisions, every university's early decision policy can be different. So just because I may tell you, I heard that Eastern Michigan, or let's say U of M, has a November 1st deadline. That does not mean I know the Wayne State's deadline. It may be around November 1st. It may be a day before, a day after. I don't know. To be honest, even off the top of my head, I'm not sure if Wayne State even has an early decision policy. Now, most colleges in Michigan have what's called rolling admissions. So that's the opposite of early admission. So rolling admissions just means they take applications almost all year round. Every month they make decisions. Also, you got to watch out if you're planning on applying early decision for a university that offers early decision. That early decision application might be what's called binding, meaning they're going to give you a tight window to accept their offer. And once you accept, you're agreeing that you won't apply or won't go anywhere else. So, for example, if you apply early admissions to U of M, got to get that application in before November 1st. A month later, they offer you a seat. Congratulations, that's what you always wanted. But they're going to say, you have to agree to go here now. And if you don't, or if you do agree to go here, then you got to stop applying and you can't accept any more offers. So were you willing, was that part of your plan? So you got to be really serious about going to that college if you're going to apply early admissions, early decision. But like I said, every college has its own policy. So I can't speak for every early admissions deadline or early admissions policy. I don't know them all off the top of my head. You have to research each college. But usually the deadlines are somewhere around November 1st. It was a long answer, I know. I hope it answered your question. Okay, so the end of your application, you might have to pay a fee or not. Many of these colleges, you won't have to pay a fee. So you'll submit that, and your application is done, but the college is going to ask for your transcript. This is a very necessary part of your college application, and it's not done on the college's website. It's done on a different website called parchment.com. So after you submit those college applications, you'll move on to parchment.com. Now, some of you have already created a username and password with parchment.com. Some of you have not. So that is the first step you're going to have to do, is create another username and password. And like I said, you're going to want to save that username and password. So email it to yourself, write it in your little notebook, save it on your phone somewhere, but don't forget that username and password once you create it. So you'll create that username and password. You'll add Warren Mott as your school, and that will connect you to your high school transcript. And then I always recommend you send a copy of your transcript to yourself so you can look at it. And as long as it looks all right, then you can start sending that transcript to those colleges that you already applied for. Again, the order here, the steps, step one, you apply to the college and submit those college applications. And then after you do that, then you send them your transcript. They'll eventually get your transcript electronically through Parchment, and they'll match it up with your college application, and then they'll process it. The other nice thing about Parchment, not only is it free, but you can track that application. So you can actually look and say, look, Oakland actually got that application, and they downloaded it, and they have it in their hot little hand. Any questions about applications or Parchment? Okay.
We have a couple.
Okay.
Since some colleges use Common App, do you still need to send your high school transcripts through Parchment?
Great question. You caught me. I was planning on saying that and I forgot. That is true. If your college uses something called the Common App, you do not need to follow that up with Parchment. When you use the Common App, it sends a link to your counselor to fill out some information. And part of that information we fill out, we upload your transcript directly to the Common App. So if you're using an application that's called the Common App, then you do not need to follow that up with a Parchment request. Your counselor will upload that transcript right into the Common App. Now, let's say let's say one of the colleges you apply to doesn't use the Common App, does not use the Common App. It has maybe its own university application. You'll have to use Parchment for that one remainder college.
There's a question, how do we track it? I think that means your transcript on Parchment.
Yep. So when you go into Parchment after you've already sent them, by the way, so when you go into Parchment, you'll see like a little icon that says like Warren Mott High School, and it has a blue bar under it that says order. Order is how you send it. It's like ordering something like online. You order a transcript and you send it. Then when you go back later, I think that it's going to be called history. You'll click on history and it'll show all the different colleges or email addresses you sent your transcript to. And I think it'll give it like a code, or it'll have like a code word that'll talk about, that'll explain if they got it or what stage that your transcript is in. But it'll be in Parchment.
I created an account on Parchment, but how do I send my transcript?
Okay. You have to log in. You have to make sure that you see Warren Mott when you log in. If it doesn't say Warren Mott, it might have a little plus symbol that says add school, in which you want to add Warren Mott. So once you have Warren Mott there, like I said, there'll be a button under it that says order, kind of like you order something on Amazon. You're going to press order, and that will order a transcript to be sent somewhere. If you're sending it to like an email address, you'll have to type that in. If you're sending it to a school or a college, you'll have to search for the college name, and then you'll send it. You want to check to make sure that it shows $0 when you're sending it. If it doesn't show 0, that means you registered for, you did something, you made a mistake when you registered in Parchment. Maybe you put that you were already a graduate or that you graduated in 2020. As long as you put there that you're a current, you only completed 11th grade, that you're not done with your senior year yet, that you'll graduate in 2021, that is how Parchment is free to you. So check to make sure it's free.
How do we complete the Common App and use it to apply to colleges?
So the Common App, you'll see it when you go to apply to college. So I'm going to go back a slide. So remember I said you're going to find a college application online. So let's say you go to Macomb, you press apply, it's going to show you how to apply. You'll notice when you press apply, it does not take you to the Common App because Macomb doesn't use the Common App. But when you press apply for Wayne, it'll say Wayne does use the Common App, and it'll give you the link to it. So not every college uses this thing called the Common App, but you'd find out when you went to the website of the college and pressed apply, it'll tell you if they use the Common App or not. If it doesn't say anything about the Common App, then they don't use it. If it says, now you use the Common App, that's how you know. Does that answer the question, I think? I'll show you an example later when we're done with the slideshow. Okay, so you send your transcript. After you send your transcript, now it's the waiting game. You kind of sit back and hopefully over the next month, that college will get back to you and let you know that they either offer admissions to you or maybe they waitlist you or they reject you. You'll get that information. It used to always come in the mail in an envelope. Nowadays, I'm finding you'll have to keep logging into that application account, and it'll tell you online somewhere whether you've been accepted or not. It usually, in my experience, if you're applying around this time of the year, it could take 1 to 2 months for you to hear back on if you've been accepted or not to that college. And that's kind of the fun part. You sit back and you kind of have your list. I applied to these 5 colleges, and then you just kind of check off as each one contacts you. All right, moving on. Like I said, some of you are going to be sending your test scores, even though, well, some colleges are still asking for them, number one. Even if a college says they're test optional and they don't need your test score, some of you may be sending them anyway. And what is the benefit to that? Someone said earlier, they talked about a merit scholarship. Some colleges give scholarships out if you have high test scores. So that's a good reason. If you know you're going to have a high SAT score, that's a good reason to send that over, is because maybe you can earn some money. Does the college that you apply for, do they offer merit scholarships? You'd have to go and research on that college website. I don't know which colleges offer which merit scholarships off the top of my head. But if you went to that college's website, like let's say the Wayne State website, and searched for their scholarships on the Wayne State website, it would tell you. If you got this SAT score and this GPA, we might offer you this amount of money. But I certainly don't know every college's off the top of my head. You'd have to do that research on your own. So how do you send your test score? Remember I said there was 2 ways. You could either put it on your bubble sheet when you're on the test day. If you don't do that and you want to send it after, well, actually, if you're going to view your test score or send it, that is all done nowadays on the College Board account, which is collegeboard.org. I know many of you have already signed up and you have your College Board account all ready to go. If you haven't yet done that, you're going to create an account on collegeboard.org. And again, you're going to save that username and password somewhere safe, maybe on your phone or in your email or something. And from this website, you're able to view your SAT score when it becomes available. And then you're able to send it out to colleges from this website when it becomes available. And like I said, it might cost you a small fee to send that test score someday. If you qualify for a fee waiver, we can give you a code so it's free. But if you do end up paying, you'll be paying right on this website as well to have those test scores sent out.
Since the early action deadline of U of M is November 15th, would now be a good time to ask for recommendation letters, or would it be too late?
Ooh, so that's some good information. I didn't know it was exactly November 15th. I I think they extended it a little this year. But that's really not that far away. So the question is, can I still ask for a recommendation letter? I always tell people, 2 weeks in advance is kind of the minimum. And I mean, we are definitely more than 2 weeks before November 15th. So yes, I think you can still ask someone to recommend you. Just remember the very polite way is to contact them personally and say, for example, Mrs. West, I would like you to recommend me for U of M. I'm going to be putting your information, if that's okay with you, I'm going to be putting your information into this application. It's going to send you probably a link in your email. And then it's very polite, and it really helps the person write a good recommendation if you provide them with a little bit about yourself, kind of like a resume, maybe a list of your accomplishments or what you've been involved in, that kind of thing. That just helps them kind of remember you a little better, and it helps them to insert some of that into the letter they're going to write for you. If you are waiting to if you need an application in less than 2 weeks, that's really not a lot of time. I mean, if you know this person or this teacher very well, maybe you can ask them. But if you're asking them and you need that recommendation done now, just be prepared. It's probably not going to be very personalized, or they may tell you that they're just not able to. So if you're talking early admissions at U of M for November 15th, I think, yes, if you worked on that today and you contacted those recommenders and asked them if you could use them on the Common App, I think that would be appropriate. Okay, moving on. So we have this sheet here, this graphic. It's on our counseling website, so you can enlarge it. Obviously, this is way too small for most people to read. But this is a list of some common Michigan public colleges that have changed up their admissions policies for the class of 2021. I believe the colleges here are all test optional, among other things. So this sheet goes into that these colleges, some of them have changed up their deadlines. All of them have gone test optional for your class. Some of them have changed up the criteria for their scholarships, and some of them have, all of them have changed up their criteria for campus visits as well. So I encourage you to go to our counseling website and click on this document to enlarge it so you can read exactly how their admissions policies have changed. But right off the bat, you can see Central, Eastern, Ferris, Michigan Tech, Oakland, they're all test optional for your class. Okay. Again, I guess that kind of brings me to, like I was just talking about, the counseling website. I really think it's important that you visit the counseling website. I think all of you visited the counseling website today because that's how you got the link to this presentation. On the counseling website, you're going to get a lot of different information, a lot of different college information on transcripts, admissions, like I just showed you that document on the other slide, and college application information. I will go to it before we leave just to give you, to show you around. So I will click on that before we leave. Like we mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, next week we're really going to get into financial aid. And and financial aid means a lot of things. If you look at this graphic on the left, this is all financial aid. Financial aid is grants, that free government money I was talking about. Financial aid is scholarships, which, as you know, it's like you apply and maybe you'll get some free money. Financial aid is also something called work study, which we'll talk more about next week. That's where the college gives you a job. And if you work that job, you'll have money to pay for college. And financial aid also includes student loans, which I know some of you are worried about. And we want to make sure that you understand exactly what a student loan is and how you can use them safely, but also how some people fall into problems with student loans. We'll be talking about all of that, which is all called financial aid. We'll be talking about that next week in depth. The application for financial aid, how you access a lot of this financial aid, is through one application called the FAFSA. We'll be talking about that next week as well. I know some of you have already started the FAFSA, which is great. The FAFSA is something you usually complete after the college application, after you send that transcript on parchment, then you would start your FAFSA. So that's why we're going to do that presentation after this one, because right now you should be applying. And we'll walk you through the FAFSA steps next week. Okay. I did want to also tell you that you will be getting a survey. We'll be sending it out to you in Schoology and in your WCS email. You'll be receiving a survey about College Month, and if you attended our college presentation and if you applied to any colleges, please make sure to fill out that survey when you get it. Okay, so I'm going to pause for a minute, and I'm going to show you a couple things on the internet, and then I'll be taking some questions. So the first thing I wanted to show you was our counseling office website. You can find the link in your Schoology. We just sent it to you. It's also on our Schoology class, the counseling class. You can also find it linked to the main Warren Mott website. When you get there, which you did today, you'll notice there's some links here for, there's the link you clicked today. We're doing another presentation for the last group of students tomorrow. And then you'll see next week, we have 4 financial aid and FAFSA presentations all week. If you can make the one that has your last name, that's the one you should go to. If you can't make that one, go to any of these. They're at 11:40 on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday next week. Also on the counseling website, there's information on college campus tours. You can view Michigan college campus tours on YouTube by clicking here. Remember I talked about the change in those admissions policies, that page that was really small? You click on it right here, it'll enlarge it for you. There's also a virtual college fair coming up November 8th. You can click here for more information. So this website is where we put all our announcements, so it's important you check back here. On the left, you're going to see links to a lot of other information. There's links to our open office hours. We have college reps visiting with our students right now. You can click this link to sign up to visit with those college reps. If you want to connect with us, there's a link here. We put some of our news up here on this link. Under college and careers, there's a lot of the information we gave out today. There's information on the Common App. There's information about applying to college. There's information on transcripts as well. If that whole parchment thing seems confusing, if you click on this transcript link, we actually have a little video here that shows how to order your transcript on parchment. So you can watch a little video. If you have a question about fee waivers, that's also here under college and careers. Talks about different types of fee waivers. So I encourage you to check out our Warren Mott Counseling website. I also wanted to go over some of the other websites where we talked about going to a college. So let's say you wanted to apply to Oakland University. So you're going to search for the Oakland University website. And like I said, once you get there, you're going to search for something that says apply or admissions. So you want to look. I don't really see it right here. Oh, look, apply now. There it is. So you're going to click apply now. And then it asks, there's some links here. You're a first-year college student. It's called an undergraduate. That's you. And it has 3 little links here. It says, I am a high school student. That's exactly what you are. So you're going to click that link next to it. And now you start making that application account like we talked about. You fill this out, submit it, and that'll be your username and password for your application. And then you'll go on from there. So that's how you find a college application. Let's do one more. I'm going to search Central Michigan University. Find their website, look for apply or admission. Oh, look, right here, apply now. There's also admissions up here that has apply now. So click that. I'm going to be a freshman. I'll click that. And then it's giving me some other information. And oh, it thinks that I already started one. Maybe I did already start one. Me and Mrs. West did attend Central, so maybe it knows that. It wants me to log in. But if you're going to create a new account, it'll be here, start my application. Oh, now this is an example of a college that uses the Common App. I didn't even realize Central was. So when you get to this application, some of you asked, how do I know if I should use the Common App? So if you get to the application and the college recommends, it says Start Common App, that's how you know. Now you'll see there's two applications, Start My Application or Start My Common App. If you're just applying to Central, then you can just start this top application. It'll probably be a little shorter. If you start the common application, what the benefit of the common application is a little longer, so why would you even start it? The reason you would probably select the common app is if you're going to use it for more than one college. So if you know yourself, if you say, I'm going to use the common app for Central and for U of M and for MSU. If you're going to use it for 3 colleges, then it's worth filling it out because you can use it, you can like reuse it over and over again. If you say, no, I'm just going to apply to Central, Macomb, and Oakland, only Central uses the Common App. So there's not really a great benefit to filling out the Common App. You probably just want to fill out the university application. It's a little shorter, and that'll be fine. If that's confusing to you, what I just explained, feel free to ask us a little bit more about it when you get there, or if that applies to you. Okay, so that's how you get to your application. Remember, what was step 2? Step 2 was going to parchment.com and creating an account and sending your transcript. And create an account, there's a link right up here at the top that says create an account. And you have to pick an account. You are considered a learner. You're a current student. And then just like creating an account on anything else, you'll fill out some personal information and sign up. And that'll be your account. And like I said, this is how you'll send your transcript. That's Parchment. And the last thing was, remember, if some of you are going to want to send your test score, and the college or the website for sending your test score is College Board. So you'll go to collegeboard.org. And if you have an account, you'll sign in. If you don't have an account, it says here, don't have an account, you'll sign up by clicking that. You'll click I am a student, and then you'll, like everything else, you have to enter in some information to create your account. And you'll do that here. So filling out your college application, sending your transcript on Parchment, sending your test scores or viewing your test scores on College Board. Those are the websites you'll go to. Okay, I've talked your ear off and I've shown you a lot of stuff. So
are you ready for the questions?
I am ready for questions.
Do we need to get letters of recommendation?
So do you need to? Some colleges do require it. And you'll know that from the application. The application will tell you we require it. For example, the University of Michigan requires a letter of recommendation. Many other colleges, they will not require it on their application. But they'll say, like, you could send it in separately if it's optional. I would say most college admissions do not require a letter of recommendation. Most are optional. However, there's a lot of things you can use that recommendation for. You can use it to strengthen your application, or almost every scholarship that you'll have to apply for will require a recommendation. So it is a good idea, especially if you're planning on applying for a lot of scholarships, it is a good idea to collect those recommendations and then use them as you're applying for scholarships. So even if your college application doesn't require a letter of recommendation, you can ask for them and use them for other things too.
When we apply to college, does our GPA change to a 4.0 scale? Okay,
so at different high schools use different scales. Warren Consolidated Schools uses what's called a 4.0 scale. So you'll always, if the application asks what kind of GPA scale your high school uses, you're going to say we use a 4.0 scale, 4.0. Now that being said, the 4.0 scale doesn't mean we don't go higher than a 4.0. We have students that go higher than a 4.0, but our scale is called the 4.0 scale. So you'll use the GPA that's on your transcript or that you can find in PowerSchool, I think, and it's called the 4.0 scale if they ask. If you're not sure, you can ask your counselor.
If a student goes to Macomb Community College for 2 years and after 2 years plans on transferring to a university, do they need to fill out the Common App once you transfer from a community college to a university?
That's a great question because it brings up a big topic, and I'm sorry I'm going to like over-explain this one. So I know some of you really want to go to a university, and you may find yourself not accepted. And you say to yourself, but I always wanted to go to I always wanted to go to Central Michigan University. How do I get in if I'm rejected? There is a way to get into a university if they're not going to take you right out of high school. And that way is by doing 2 years at a community college. If you do 2 years at a community college, it like kind of erases your high school record. So if you weren't proud of your GPA or weren't proud of your SAT score, all you have to do is 2 years at Macomb, do really well at Macomb, and then when you apply to a university, they'll only look at your Macomb history. They won't even look at that high school history that maybe you're not very proud of at this point. That's the big explanation. So will you use the Common App someday? If you do the 2 years at a community college and then apply after to a university, you're not going to be you're not going to fill out the freshman application. You're going to fill out what's called a transfer application. And different colleges have different transfer applications. One college might use the Common App for their transfers. That's true. I can't tell you. I don't memorize all the colleges in the United States. So yes, a university might use the Common App for transfers or not. Many universities might only use the Common App for incoming freshmen, not for transfers. They may have a different application for transfers. So really, you have to go to that college website after your 2 years at Macomb, or when you're in that second year at Macomb. You'll go to that university website and you'll find the application for transfers. It may be Common App, it may not be. It's a good question.
So I took the SAT, and when I was filling out my bubble sheet, I put down the college I want to go to. Will it send my SAT score without me sending anything?
Yes. If you put it on the bubble sheet, then on the test day, then they're going to get a copy of your SAT score. Yes. I don't know if you can stop it. That's where earlier I said maybe you can call College Board to see if you can stop it. But yes, if you put it on the bubble sheet, they will get it.
Would I ask a teacher for multiple letters of recommendation, or can a letter of recommendation be applied to multiple applications or in scholarships?
Well, it probably kind of depends on how the teacher writes that letter. Usually most of us try to write a general letter that you can use for a lot of different things. So if you let that teacher know, can you write something general that I can use? They'll just the way they format it, they can do it so that you can use it for scholarships, for college admissions, for whatever you need. Many of the letters I write, I try to write them general so that they can be used in all those circumstances. However, if your college is asking for a letter of recommendation on how specifically you are a good fit for U of M, and that's how the teacher or recommender writes it, then that might be the only way you can use that letter. So it kind of depends. As long as the college doesn't specifically ask for a specific format, then I would probably ask my teacher to write a general recommendation that can be used for any college or any scholarship. And they can do that. We're used to it.
Is it considered cheaper to transfer from Macomb to a different college after 2 years?
Well, is it considered cheaper to start at Macomb 2 years and then transfer to university? It all depends on your situation. It's different for everyone. So remember, we talked about if your family has a financial need, or if you qualify for free and reduced lunch, if you're going to get a lot of scholarships, if you qualify for these government grants. For some of you, Macomb may be very cheap, if not free. And for some of you still, a university might be pretty cheap, if not free. There are some of you, because of your financial need and your family's financial need, a university may cost the exact same as Macomb. So it all depends on the individual student. Like I said, we're going to talk more in depth about this next week, but I can't answer that necessarily. Now, if your family has no financial need and you have a lot of resources to pay for college, and you fill out the FAFSA application and the government says, it is true, you have a lot of financial ability and the government is not going to help you and you decide to sit back and not apply for any scholarship, if you're paying just the tuition out of your pocket, then yes, Macomb is cheaper than in the first 2 years than going to a university for 2 years. So, but that all depends on your situation. And just because you know your parents have good jobs, that's not enough for you to know if you qualify for federal grants or not. So we'll talk more about that next week. Everyone should be applying for federal aid. And then if you don't get it, then maybe you'll make that decision on not going to a university. Maybe you'll just start off at a community college because it has a lower tuition. But everyone's situation is different.
How do I apply for grants?
You apply for grants by filling out a financial aid application, which is called the FAFSA. It's FAFSA. It's the free application for federal student aid. And we'll be talking about that in our presentations next week. We'll be showing you how to get to the FAFSA, and we'll be showing you how to start and how to complete the FAFSA. It's a long it's not impossibly long. It's a little longer than a college application. It's going to ask for your personal information, and it's going to ask for your parents' personal information. And based on that, that's how the government decides who will get some of the free grant money and who will not. We'll talk more about it next week.
I think that wraps it up, Mr. Lenny.
Really? Some really great questions. I really wanted to want to take this time to thank everyone for coming today. We're really happy you were here and that you have this information. If your parents or if you or your friends didn't get to attend this week, we're having one more college application presentation tomorrow at 11:40. All you got to do is click on that link on our counseling website. If you wanted a copy of today's slideshow, it's also on the counseling website. And then I'm going to remind you, like I've been saying for the last hour, we'll be doing financial aid next week. You get the links for those presentations on the counseling office website, like I showed you earlier. And next week's presentations are similar to this week. It's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at 11:40 in the morning. You just got to click on the link and we'll go through a similar presentation about financial aid. We'll talk about that free government money, those grants, work study. We'll talk about scholarships, merit scholarships, and student loans and what each of those means and how to get them. All right, so thank you for coming today and have a nice day. Again, if you want to contact your counselor, counseling website's a good place to start. Email, Schoology. We also have open office hours where we can meet you on WebEx. See you later.